If SCP-682 really is just a lizard, can't we keep cutting pieces off of him like an infinitely regrowing Thanksgiving turkey for people to eat?
Huh. Good afternoon, Site-42 staff. Dr. Theron Sherman here, and today we will be reacting to some more SCP shower thoughts from friend of the channel, SCP Wyatt. Remember to leave your SCP shower thoughts in the comments below, and maybe we'll answer them in the next SCP shower thoughts audience video. And of course, priority goes to Site-42 patrons over on the Site-42 Patreon, and YouTube channel members will see your badges in the comments. Let's begin.
What happens if SCP-173 looks at 096? Would 096 consider a sentient being to destroy?
So this brings us back to something we talked about with SCP-3008-2 in the last shower thoughts video, which is it sonar that allows 3008-2 to see? And how does 173 see? It doesn't have eyes, obviously, so unless it has a sense of seeing that is enough to see the details of 096's face in a manner that would trigger it, it is likely not enough. We don't know that 173 specifically sees, even though it goes straight to you when you're not looking at it. Interesting. Let me see if there's any entries on the database about this. Ah, yes. The SCP Versus series, which is, as I remember, a collaboration between Dr. Sumerian and sometimes Mr. Illustrated, two friends of the channel. Check them out if you haven't. They do an 096 versus 173. There's even a video on Mr. Illustrated's YouTube channel to check out. So, the death of 096. It seems like 173 won this round if they did fight. They fed 096 to 682, which skinned it and dissolved its flesh with acid. And then only the bones were left, and Dr. Daniels is saying breaking bones is what 173 does. So a combination of an acid tank and 173 snapping its bones repeatedly and shooting at it with lots of guns, it seems like we were able to end 096. Now, what that shows is that 173 attacked 096. This doesn't actually mention 096 attacking 173. So really, this doesn't answer our question at all. Interesting. So I guess based on what we know about this test / termination log, I would assume that 173 does not activate 096. Does not seem that 096 is attacking 173, just that 173 is attacking 096. Alright, well, that was an interesting adventure. Next question.
What happens when you put SCP-682 in a room with 012? Is it compelled to finish the book? It will never run out of blood, so how long does it write for?
So, I believe that we tested 012 and 682. Let's head to the termination log. Yes. Item test on 012. Tissue test record not applicable. Termination test record. 012 is lowered into 682's containment chamber. 682 achieves visual contact with 012. Although 682 approaches 012, this action appears to have been made by 682's own free will and not due to 012's mind-affecting properties. Physical alterations begin to manifest and affect all ink written on any piece of paper, which tests later identify as dried blood from 682. This anomalous effect affects all ink in a 500-meter radius, possessing the same anomalous properties as 012. In the ensuing breach of security, 682 breaches containment, having never been observed to establish direct physical contact with 012. Notes. Going over the termination attempt involving 061, that was to be expected. It also marks the fastest time 682 has been able to breach containment, in exactly 47 seconds, though 682 may break this record easily in the future. So, it turns out 012 does not affect 682, and in fact, somehow turned all ink within a 500-meter radius into its own dried blood, which had the 012 attack. Ouch. That's bad. Next question. Oof.
Can blind people recognize the bodies in the water?
Wait a minute. I think we already answered that in the last Shower Thoughts video with Wyatt, didn't we? After consulting 2316 on the database, there's a lot of sound-related things here, and so specifically for 2316, I have a feeling that you could still be caught by the cogno-hazard even if you're blind. We already talked about this. I gave you your answer. You're going to need to up your game. You're getting repetitive, my friend. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Feel superior, as if I never made a mistake at all. This certainly won't come back to bite me later. Next question.
What would happen if you looked at SCP-096 and then Roblox oofed yourself? Would he still try to destroy your body until nothing is left, or just go back to being docile?
So the idea here is 096 wants you kaput because you saw its face. So if you see its face and then kaput yourself, well, the job's done. 096 just leaves you alone because there is no more living entity that knows what its face looks like exactly. So, yeah, easy peasy. Next question.
Will two SCP-173s staring at each other basically do nothing forever, or do they get to move around if no one else is watching?
So, we have a tale about this. It's called Revised Entry. And one day we discover there's two SCP-173s instead of one. And then they multiply again. And then they multiply again. And it keeps going. And eventually, they take over the darn world because there's only so many places we can contain them before they break out. So, yes, it turns out that two 173s next to each other do not stop each other. Darn. Next question.
If SCP-682 really is just a lizard, can't we keep cutting pieces off of him like an infinitely regrowing Thanksgiving turkey for people to eat?
Huh. Interesting concept. So we do know that SCP-682 does continually reform. And so, logically speaking, it would not be impossible to feed the world infinite 682 meat, except that A, it would not consent to that, and it would in fact make our lives very difficult to continue to try and farm meat from 682. And secondly, let me look at the database and see if we've ever tried this before. I have a memory about this. All right, so after a little bit of research, it seems that we have another infinite meat anomaly that we mess with, SCP-4158, Big Charlie the Big Cow. And for that one, despite the fact that the anomaly seems like it's just non-anomalous meat at the end of the day, we still burn it off because you never know how things are going to change with anomalies. They can be unpredictable. So it's not something that we would continue to do after all. We're not going to feed the world with 682, unfortunately, even if it let us. Next question.
What happens when you bulldoze SCP-3008? Does it move to another IKEA? What happens when you bulldoze every IKEA? Does SCP-3008 become neutralized, or does it move into a Home Depot or something?
So, the situation here is that we would not bulldoze the infinite IKEA, because if it moves to another place, we won't know where it is. This is a terrible testing idea that we will not be moving forward on. It's nice, we know where it is, just leave it alone and run our tests in peace. Thank you. Next question.
What happens if you accidentally draw 096's face? Does he still come after you? And how accurate does the drawing have to be to trigger him?
So, here's the deal with 096's face in pictures. It has to be a photograph or on video. It has to be exact. It cannot be an artistic representation. If there is any flaw at all, it doesn't work. Which, logically speaking, we're sitting here with 4 pixels, and that looks nothing like 096's face, but it is still a photograph, so it still works, versus a well-drawn portraiture with the idea being it's as accurate as possible. Technically, that wouldn't activate it, but the 4 pixels does. This is why it's hard to deal with anomalies. That doesn't seem to make sense, and yet 096 makes that distinction and draws it on the walls in your blood and your brains. Next question.
If SCP-173 tries to snap your neck, what happens if you're wearing one of those big suits with the neck protectors on them? Would it feel like he's just giving you a nice massage?
SCP-173 moves at a ridiculous speed. If it can move that fast, it can generate a lot of force. And if it can generate that much force, I don't think that neck protector is protecting your neck from the incoming boom. Next question.
If SCP-966 is basically invisible to the naked eye, what happens when it looks at 096? Does Shy Guy know where it is in the room, or would he run around confused?
Easy question. 966, invisible to the naked eye, but 096 knows when entities see its face from across the planet. So it does not matter where 966 is. 096 would sense it and hunt it down. Now that brings up other questions about 966. Let me look at the database real quick. So yes, they are long-term predators that wait for the entity to pass out before they attack. I have a feeling that not only would 096 know where they are, but it seems like 096 would be the stronger entity if there were to be a fight between them. Next question.
If we only ever know what SCP-055 isn't, can't we go down a list of everything and use the process of elimination to find out what it is? It would take some time, but we have some smart scientists.
Well, flattery will get you everywhere, my friend. But, yes, in theory, we can try to process of eliminate all the way down of things SCP-055 isn't to find out what it is. The problem is just that that is everything. And if it's everything, that's a very long list to go down to get to this one thing it is versus everything it isn't. So, as much as we have our very smart scientist, I don't think we have the lifespan to make that happen even a couple generations down. Next question.
This commenter wants to know what would happen if you ask SCP-294 for a liquid that can destroy 682 and we gave it to the hard-to-destroy lizard. Would it work?
So we tried this, and the problem is the coffee machine only gives you a coffee cup of this liquid. And so yes, the liquid did in fact harm 682, but a lot of things harm 682. And so if we tried to spend all our time, coffee cup order, put it in a tub, coffee cup order, put it in a tub, coffee cup order, put it in a tub, by the time we got enough fluid to destroy 682 completely, it will have adapted to that. This is the same reason we don't test nuclear weapons on it, because if it doesn't work, then 682 will adapt. Really, we should have done the test with the whole vat first, but since we didn't, we're SOL. Addendum to this answer. After looking at the database and the termination log again, obviously we tested 294 liquid of the 682 killer on 682, but we also try to work around to get more of the fluid, which is SCP-107. It is a turtle shell that has to be completely dry because any liquid that touches it, that liquid starts to rain from the sky. And so that vast amount of SCP-682 killer fluid did mostly dissolve 682 into nothing during that test. The problem was it didn't go hard enough. There was still atoms of 682 left, so when the rain stopped, 682 regrew. It's just like Wolverine rules. You got to get every single atom, and this rain of fluid was not enough to be that accurate. So again, didn't work out. Next question.
What happens to all of the fecal matter SCP-173 produces? After the Foundation cleans it up, do they just throw it away or pull pranks on the Chaos Insurgency with it?
So as funny as it would be with all these prank bags of SCP-173 waste, what actually happens is, the D-Class push it down into the drain, and then it used to just go into sewage. But we realized that for some of the food efforts that we have to deal with, it could be used as a fertilizer, because it is blood and feces, both things that are used in common fertilizers this day and age. But of course, just like it is with the infinite meat trick from 682 and 4158, I think it was, the problem is that we don't know how the anomalousness of that could randomly affect the food supply. So it was a good idea, it could be useful, but it's something we're not going to approve. Next question.
SCP-457 is a sentient being composed of flame. What happens when it looks at SCP-096? Does Shy Guy get angry with it and eat the fire? How does that work exactly?
This one's not that difficult. So 457, man-made out of fire, requires fuel to keep alive. And so it goes out into the woods and it burns things, so there's more fire, and so it has more fuel to be burning. And while it's in containment, it requires us to give it fuel to subsist. So after a while of fighting with 096, I imagine that 096, who is ridiculously tough, it would not be defeated by 457. Meanwhile, if 457 can't get away from 096, it will just have to expend its allotted fuel trying to fight, and it will eventually go out. Next question.
SCP-1025 is a book that has every disease in it. Do you think it has the pestilence that SCP-049 is always talking about?
Well, if the pestilence is in there, we're not going to know about it. That book is 1,500 pages long, and every disease you read about, you get. And so we only have so many D-class to test this thing. Testing was ceased a long time ago because that is just a very expensive research that is not necessary because there's only one of the book and we got it locked up. So whether it's got so many normal diseases and anomalous diseases, we're not worried about it. Just keep that thing locked down. Next question.
This user wants to know, if you took one of those human-looking AIs and put it in front of SCP-173, would he be stuck forever or would he just ignore it?
Oh, this is an easy one. SCP-173 is specifically stopped by the sight of living creatures. This AI, I mean, even if it were sentient, I don't know if it counts as a living creature. That's a whole sentient AI debate down the way. I'll let the Artificial Intelligence Division handle that. But, long story short, 173 would not care about one of those human-like artificial intelligence dummies being sat in front of it. It would just keep doing what it's doing. Next question.
Does SCP-173 freeze if an animal looks at him? Will he try to 360 no-scope their neck if they look away? What if it's like a bird or something he can't reach? Does he just zoom around angrily?
So, SCP-173, we just talked about this. If it has eyes and it's alive, it can stop 173. So that's animals. Famously, we use SCP-131, the iPods, to stop it for a little bit before they got stressed out by that. It wasn't good for anomaly testing, so we don't do that anymore. But yes, it is the case where if it's alive and it has eyes, then it stops 173. Next question.
Who builds the SCP facilities? Does the Foundation have its own carpenters that are constantly building new stuff, or do they hire Home Depot workers or something?
Ah, the great, how did Bruce Wayne build the Batcave? Were there contractors? Did he have to buy them all into silence? Did he have to kill them all? How does he not let that secret get out with that many people? Because he didn't build the Batcave alone, nor did he do it with just one old man, Alfred, over there. So how did that happen? For us, it's a much better situation because we can hire contractors and we can build for our front companies. We're just building normal stores that we station our people in to survey the greater community. But if you got to build a dark site, we have our own specialized team of contractors we can bring in. They have a great pay, great retirement package. You keep these people quiet. They're loyal to the Foundation. Easy peasy, easy peasy, as long as they're building things that these things can't break out of. Next question.
What happens if SCP-106 looks at 096 and then goes into his pocket dimension? Does Shy Guy traverse the multiverse to get to him, or does he just stand still and wait for 106 to come back?
So in previous answers, we know that 096 can sense you wherever you are once you see its face. We know that 106 can leave this dimension and go into its pocket dimension, but we also know it doesn't just stay there. It comes back out into our world. And so if it comes back into our world, 096 knows where it is. Easy peasy. Or, if the pocket dimension door is open, 096 can go in there. And then, of course, just the hunting behavior of 106, it's not going to keep 096 closed in there. And you can find your way out of the pocket dimension. This is why we don't store things in pocket dimensions, because we know that eventually an immortal being, statistically, is going to escape. You don't put it in 106's dimension. You don't put it in the Infinite IKEA. Just leave it in its box where it's safe. Don't overcomplicate things. Sheesh. Next question.
This user wants to know, what happens if an AI like 079 looks at Shy Guy? Will Shy Guy attack the computer, or just the camera, or nothing at all? I mean, it's a computer, but it's basically living. It just has special eyes.
So we're going into our artificial intelligence's truly alive kind of conversation now. How pertinent for our daily times. So, I believe that we know at least low-level AI like the Scramble Goggles, they were meant to recognize 096's face and block us from seeing it. And 096 did not attack the goggles. It attacked the person who was wearing the goggles because it didn't work. It was real nasty. But, point is, 096 didn't attack the goggles, it attacked the wearer. So, on that point, 096 doesn't care if the goggle recognizes it. And I think that's going to be the clincher for all of our sentient AIs, because they are still not real live entities. They are artificial intelligences. They are data in a machine. And so with that in mind, I doubt a sentient AI could in fact be attacked by 096. But it could be something to test down the road. And that's the end of today's Shower Thoughts video. We hope you enjoyed our hypotheses. Thank you again to SCP Wyatt for your often infuriating but always entertaining shower thoughts. And remember to leave your shower thoughts in the comments or on the Patreon and member page for priority answering. We'll see you in the next video. Secure, contain, protect. Thank you for listening. Site42 Studios and its staff are funded by viewers like you. Please become a patron or visit our merch store at the link in our bio to support our work. Secure, contain, protect.